actually giving direction, you giving direction, not just to look at the comments, but to prepare a draft?
Correct, I would like a motion to
Let's
that
not
effect,
miss,
please.
let's not miss the
Yes.
draft.
Yeah, but
document.
I think that that's important, is like staff's getting feedback from the CDA members
Yeah.
as to the document.
Right.
Oh, you
Staff's job to look at
well,
those,
then give me
to take those
We're gonna do
comments and come up with a working document.
That we can
Okay.
then
That,
discuss.
that we can then discuss. At that time, CDA members would have the option, obviously, say, well, you left out my point X, Y, Z. But we don't have to go through everyone's 3 or 4 points one by one. This allows that conversation to take place in a real focused way. And I think it's great because we'll be able to get a lot more done. What the work, a lot of the work will be put together in a concise format where we can all understand it. Then we have the relevant comments. Doesn't mean it's a done document. We're still gonna have the discussion.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Points will still be
I
made.
expect that, cause I don't know as much as you guys do.
Yeah, points will still be made, but they won't be made, but we won't, the document won't, instead of taking 3 CDA meetings to get done, but it'll take hopefully, 1 or maybe 2. So.
Thought perhaps in collating the comments, if staff can kind of organize them, if it's not a substitute, I don't know that that's the right word, but you know what I'm intending.
Important material.
Substantive,
Yeah,
change, that's clear, but if it's a decision to add or remove that reflects something that we should be discussed, if it can be, like, sort of in memo format, your response of high level, here were the comments, low level, here are the comments, right? That's the micro. And then the macro is, we noticed, these 3 things that probably you're probably gonna wanna think about.
sure.
These 3 things that have changed, and, we just wanna make sure that you all are on the same page about that, or that we're clear. And then these things are kind of housekeeping consistency that make a lot of sense.
You need to do that though, it's just more time,
Kind
and
of
if you have
subjective
the
in a
whole,
way.
if you have the document, you see the.
It's taking mine out.
I would find that helpful because it gives us kind of a menu to look through as a format for,
Yeah, because what does a red line look like? Because you might say remove this, and I might say add, actually keep this and enhance it. So we might be in disagreement, so how do we?
and that's
In
where I
the
feel like
document,
we
how
get
does-
stuck
how
here,
do-
because
yeah.
we don't have staff. We start discussing things, before we get staff's kind of overview. And then for me, I get really lost at that point.
So I think what I heard, what you're gonna help us understand is these are the immaterial items that we can all probably agree on quickly, but then there are some substantive items that are gonna require discussion.
Sure.
Trustee Rozak wants to remove, Hammond wants to keep, so these are the 10 things that you, the CDA, need to provide us direction on as to whether include or delete or change.
So that is one approach.
Right.
The second would be us just not working from what you worked on before, and us just providing you a draft.
A list of the
That's
comments.
what we,
Okay.
When you, and then if we decide through
Okay.
that process and you guys providing comments back, that what's substantive, substantive
Yes.
or not, then, so, because this is
Okay.
the bylaws that you have here from 2010, they're lengthy in some areas that I just don't know if they need to be
I
at
see,
all.
so we're
Okay,
we're
alright.
not really, so this draft is,
We could work from
It's
this,
we don't need to though.
but we don't need
That's-
to.
I-
mean, as
yeah, that
one
is
of the
much
reasons
more
I provided
efficient,
these
yeah.
other examples is because everyone's got pretty much the similar
They do.
template.
Yes.
It's just a couple of minor areas that people
Yes.
tweak.
Yes,
So another approach would be, we won't take comments from you, we would just draft based upon the template that, you're seeing is pretty consistent. And then you can fill in that feedback for us of what you think may be different.
That's fine, as
That
long
might
as you
be-
don't need
yeah.
as long as you don't feel you need any of the history before you take stuff out. If you
I'm
don't,
not
I'm good
sure,
with that.
I really value looking at history because it helps you understand, but your discussions as a group have waned for the last year and a half, and for me, and I'm just speaking for myself, and this is what I've said to people coming in, I wanna focus more about where we go together
Mm-hmm.
versus where we have been. And so, and it's just something that I've voiced not only to your group, but to others. So I'm sure that you'll tell me, as long as you know, that I'm not trying to omit anything purposefully. I'm just trying to move forward.
Mhm.
So if we can have that level of understanding, I have no problem with us sitting down as a staff early next week, agreeable, of course, to everyone used to people's schedules, and saying, okay, let's do a template draft, send that out, and then before the next meeting, you guys can
I think
send me
Give
back
feedback.
feedback
That's,
of, you know, wow, you missed this, or I don't know about that thing that happened 4 years ago, and that was really important to us, or something like that, I don't, you know.
And going through this, my recollection is there's nothing in here that was trying to address a problem.
Okay,
So I think history has less impact on this than
okay,
just common sense, what needs to be in it. So I would think your approach would be,
So clean slate, basically.
yeah.
I would welcome that.
I'm fine with that.
So wait, everybody agree that's the direction?
okay, so, next week, we will provide you a draft, and then I will provide you with some sufficient time to go through that and provide you with comments. And then I will, if there's something substantive, I will note that, and then to try to help focus your conversation from when we meet
At the
again.
next meeting,
Mhm.
yeah.
So with that approach, which I totally support, things that are important to us, we should probably just say if they're not in here, that, so you know as you're drafting, but mine was, the terms of members, everything that goes around how members are appointed for what term, and then also just the second thing I hadn't mentioned is, there's a lot in here about what the authority is to approve, and it's like expenditures over 25,000. So fully define, if you're gonna put a requirement in like that, fully define which funding that applies to. Is it all funding? So any project, no matter the funding, if it's over 25,000, it goes to the board, you know what I'm saying, just,
Typically, and you'll notice in the other drafts,
They don't
it,
have any,
They don't have all
I
that.
don't,
right,
that's an area where
but
it's like just set at an amount,
I see that.
yep,
But I'm just saying, because
If we go
we will end up in that point,
okay,
having disagreement, because because now we have a segregated CDA account, and it doesn't go to the board, nothing goes to the board right now, so that's the history.
oh,
You know what I'm
okay,
saying?
okay.
So in the future, if you're just gonna do a blanket statement, I will have that, it'd be good to know
Okay.
which funding pots
Is relevant.
that limit applies to.
Sure, that's great feedback. And then for the committee appointments, or authority appointments, am I hearing from the group that you wanna stay consistent with what you have been doing?
No, I don't know what we've been doing, it's been 2 years, and we've never had an election of officers since I've been on the board,
Oh,
on the
okay,
committee.
alright, well, we'll give you some intro too.
Yeah.
And then you can tell me.
Alright,
Great, so for minute purposes, because this is, I apologize, I should have listed it for action. You'll
Yes.
get to know this from me. I like to encompass it in a motion because we talk a lot in meetings about different things, and so I need to lead with clear understanding. So my understanding from this, Bart, for the minutes is that, is that staff is being directed to prepare bylaws of rules and procedure that we're going to give out to the group. By email, you're gonna submit your comments. I'll redistribute all the comments from the group so that you have that in advance of the next meeting. And then we'll try to provide you just with some cliff notes for how to maneuver through the decision points for your next meeting.
That's great.
Yes, and can we include the comments that you distribute to us in the public packet as well?
Oh, sure, not a
Yeah.
problem.
That's what I was assuming, that would all be.
Oh, so you
that
want
would-
them then?
That would all be
No, no,
board
give me ahead of
material.
time, as long as there's a copy of them, because we're as members sharing feedback.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Great.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the work.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And last item is the survey, priorities survey.
Mhm.
Do you wanna?
It's just brief, I just
Yep,
wanna
yep.
let you know that, so, like we've talked about, there are some things that we wanna start putting in motion that aren't real long or lengthy, but I wanna start that discussion of priorities, cause I'm hopeful that we, through kind of changing how we're proceeding to kind of keep working on things, to provide to you throughout the month, we can do that. So focus of the next meeting will really be to get through rules of procedure, but I do wanna get some feedback to you, so we don't take as much time gathering background information for setting priorities. It'll be very simple, easy survey for you to complete. All the results will be provided to you. Because the intent here is to start that process of, getting that feedback from you so that we can eventually set priorities that you'd be recommending. Please keep in mind that, since being here, one of the things that I've been going back to take a look at is that, this community took a lot of time and effort to establish Vision 2025. And because of the number of changes that have occurred here over the last year, that plan has relatively been held up. Because the time and efforts that we would have taken to go and align not only staff tasks, but committee initiatives and tasks to meet the objectives of 2025, has otherwise been, just kind of slowed down in different ways. So I'm gonna be asking staff, as well as other committees, to go back and re-verbalize what they believe are their priorities based upon our 2025 plan. Not all those things can happen all at one time, sometimes for budgetary reasons, sometimes for other reasons, so eventually I wanna get that list to the board, because the board's gonna need to prioritize. One of the things in looking at Vision 2025 is that it's great information. We have all of that public information that we need in order for the policymakers to go forward and make decisions. What's lacking in that document is prioritization. So, I share that with you because, it's something that I shared yesterday when I met with another group who had a number of things that they wanted to do. Because one of the things we talked about at the first meeting is that, how this committee functions, I see, has significantly changed. There used to be a lot of individuals on the committee doing a lot of what we're going to be doing on a month-to-month basis, kind of behind the scenes. So this is one group out of a number who we provide support to, and so I wanna make sure that the things that we're doing here also take to that 2025, and are in agreement with how the board wants to accomplish that vision. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of different moving pieces, but just know that my perspective from a 30,000-foot view is there. Okay.
Okay, I do have a question. We as a committee, I made this suggestion to, was it the CBA or was it the bid? I can't remember. It was when I first was elected, but I read the 2020, there's also the implementation pullouts.
Correct.
Okay, so when I read that, I thought it would be great to review it. We've never reviewed since my election, as a committee, any of that. So
You're in luck.
Right, right.
I'm gonna have you take a look at it.
That's exactly right. So I
Yeah.
think I've requested that before because,
We all have.
Yeah.
That was the plan, that we
Right.
were gonna, and
and
then other
it wasn't
things
just
happened.
since,
Oh, okay,
it
yeah.
hasn't just been the last
That was
year
always
that it stalled. I mean,
Well, I was trying to be kind.
thank you. So, but I also have to say that I've heard, I'm voicing an opinion of another trustee as well, that, there's been a lot of change, even at the board level, from when that was adopted. And we've never, at the board, at this committee, so I'm hesitant to say, let's start prioritizing what's in there without reviewing what's in there as a group,
Sure.
at least once.
Sure.
To make sure that because we have new leadership, we have new committee members, and
I'm new.
yeah, and a lot of us
Right.
are, there was a significant turnover,
Yeah.
and so before we start prioritizing the implementation plan, can we just review at least for
You
one
bet.
meeting and make sure we're in agreement with it still?
Yeah. So in that agreement is not, you as a group may come to one, but the board may come to another.
So sorry. I mean, that plan has been adopted, I mean, do we have authority to say we don't agree with what's in the plan? The vision?
I don't
mean,
know
we're-
if
Our
CBA
job
has,
is to,
yeah.
to implement, right?
Correct.
So I don't know that we can have an agreement, disagreement. That is
So
the
maybe,
visions.
I'm sorry about that, maybe I need to clarify, maybe at the board level, we just need
Yes,
to review.
I, when
and then we
when you
can-
were commenting, I had assumed that you were reflecting
I
board.
was, but,
And, and that's normal. You have this overall, and I only share this because during my interview process this came up, where somebody, one of the questions, maybe the two trustees remember more than I do, but, how would you start to implement Vision 2025? And I had just come out of a strategic planning process with another group who was reluctant to strategic plan. And so I had done reviewing vision statements from probably 40 different communities in terms of, how to prepare for this. And your vision statement as a community is the longest one I have found in the entire US. What's challenging about that, which is what I referenced before, is that that's not efficient. And so it's great that we want to be all of these different things, but unless there are clear expectations for us, because we as staff want to do a good job for you, we want to meet the expectation, but unless that's prioritized, we won't, and you will set us up for failure. And I like to do well. I want to do well for you, and I want to do well for the board. So typically, when you adopt those things, there is a priority. That was one priority set out, and that's one of the things that in areas that there's silence. So I want to try to get to that. But to your point, Allison, with those strategic plans, they're set out for a period of 10 years, but then every quarter, you're reporting on it. It's a living, breathing document. And there should be established terms of, if there's a change, how we agree on the change. Because it's not always just the board decision, but it's also that feedback from the staff of, can we realistically accomplish that? Let's come to some terms of how we move forward. So I'm hoping to bring it back in that form. It's probably gonna take a little while because there's a lot of different committees and growths and things like that, but that's where eventually I wanna be. So bear with me for some of that, collecting, but all those same documents that you had referenced, to get people familiar with, I'm gonna be sending out not only to the staff, by the way, in linked format, because they're lengthy, so not everyone will want the desire to look at the same thing, so I don't wanna print all of these things. But, to get yourself familiar with some of the things I've been looking at, and then how we kind of move forward from there. And I may make a mistake along that route, because that's a lot to pick up all of a sudden. So I'm just acknowledging that to you. My desire here is to do good for not only your group as an authority, because you do have some statutory differences, from the board, but also from the board's perspective. So please know if there's something that you want to share for me, or I didn't phrase something correctly, please call me. Just call me, because chances are I just didn't know.
Mhm.
and can we establish, I read in the ordinance, in some of these, bylaws, what the role of the CDA, you made a really great point, Peter, we just implement. Some of the bylaws that I read last night from the other communities say that CDAs draft and recommend the comprehensive vision plan.
Yes.
Now, so I'm just wondering if we can clarify that, so that if that is the case, that we recommend things from Vision 2020 to the board, then we would want to at least review and.
So so
Thank
that's
you.
one of the reasons I'm
Thanks so
so. Thank you. You're such a great lead-in. We didn't rehearse this. But inherently, so when CDAs are formed, a lot of reasons why village board want these bylaws and procedures, they typically are the drafters. But so these bylaws need to be approved by them, but they do that initially at the outset because they want to provide that clear direction.
Right.
The CDA has been an incredible resource in this community, so that may definitely be the route that everyone agrees to continue to take. I just wanna make sure that we just have, and it's simple, but it's just having it written down ensures some level of consistency as you as members change. Because that, when you're in my role as an executive director to a group like this, we have to acknowledge, no different, well, same with my role with the board, those people change, and so if you don't have a sheet of music that you're working on consistently, which you can change, but it's done by agreement of that group, I just wanna make sure that I'm always heading in the direction that.
I actually really appreciate that approach, that it's not about the individuals that sit in the office. It's about establishing the clear process of decision
Yeah,
making.
so that no matter who's
So that no
there,
matter who's there,
absolutely.
that, you know, you're assured that
Consistency
you're
of
being
process.
correct,
Yeah.
and it's a lot
That's,
easier.
I think that's what we've all been trying to work on a little bit, is filling in those.
Yeah,
Well, cause it's tough on new members.
it is.
Yeah,
I mean, you all have such, and so one of the parts that's most exciting about working here is that this, I mean, I sit down in front of this group, and a lot of times I stand in awe because I'm like, wow, I get to work with these people, right? You individually bring talent to this group that nobody else has. So, but it's hard to all of a sudden just get immediately up to speed on everything that's supposed to be there. I mean,
yep.
no different than I'm acknowledging to you, I don't have the history that you do. You know, so I may flounder in some of those areas. But my desire is the same as yours, which is I wanna do something good here.
Pete,
On the survey, there was, an initiative a couple years ago to list all the projects or initiatives.
2015, I found it,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we actually prioritized and voted on it.
Mhm.
And those may or may not be relevant categories.
Mhm.
You would have to decide, but I wanna make sure you have that.
I do, and I appreciate you mentioning it because Erica had put that together, and we as a staff are going to be sitting down. We may not take the same approach initially, but we will be providing that information when we get to a point, so that you guys see what was there before, because it was extremely helpful for me, and it's like, you know, anything that I find useful, I want to share. So it's just to kind of recalibrate.
And that came from the Central District Master
Yes.
Implementation Plan.
Well, that and other points.
Yep.
Yep.
But one of the main things was the update of the master plan. And it took two thrusts. One of them was traditional kinds of projects, and the other was take all the opportunity sites that had been identified and to prioritize those as well. So you'll find many of the current sites that we're wrangling with
Right.
in there, and opinions as to what importance they are.
Mhm.
Could you send that out?
Sure, not a problem. It was really helpful, and another lead in on that comment is that, you know, in the first document that we took a look at tonight, a lot of that I think was compiled for purposes more so of this group to kind of get on the same page.
Yes.
But when people contact the staff, they wanna talk about the priorities more in line with what you guys were talking about in 2015.